All right, thanks everybody. This is our first testing group internal customer or internal stakeholder call. So there's an agenda that I've shared with folks, and just real quick, the TLDR on this meeting. The goal here is just to ensure that the problems that this testing team or testing group is solving in future milestones meet those demands of our internal customers, and that the testing team really understands the outcomes that those internal stakeholders are looking to drive. And so I figure this is a great way for optionally the testing team to hear those things firsthand and make sure me as a product manager for these categories is hearing from these internal stakeholders as well as all of our external customers in the community. So today it looks like we have mostly our testing team and Zeph, who's in dual role a bit for us as an internal stakeholder. But the things I wanted to cover today, we're just doing a quick review of a roadmap deck that I put together. It follows the same sort of format that some of the other product managers in the Verify or in the CI/CD area are using. And then had a couple of questions about the maturity levels and some of the plans that we have to try to get a sense of what feels right, what feels too aggressive or not aggressive enough. And then how this group is using metrics reports, the metric reports functionality today, as we look at other ways to leverage that for some graphing of results and seeing if we can open that up a little bit. So I'm going to start with the roadmap deck and go ahead and share my screen to do that. If you have questions, just pop them into chat or the doc, or feel free to interrupt and we'll answer those in real time. We'll try to address everything that's in chat or in the doc after we get through the slides. Let's see. Share and present. Everybody hopefully can see that okay. All right, I see some nods, excellent. So this is shared in the agenda doc as well, and this will be a living doc, so it'll be kept up to date as we move through milestones. But just generally, the vision for the group for Verify testing is to build out a set of features that within 3 years, looking long-term at the vision, is gonna allow 90% of our customers to reduce their lead time for changes by 50%. How I'm defining that is basically from MR creation to deploy to production. We wanna help decrease the time it takes to do that. And understanding from our customers and just personal experience, I'm sure that all of us have, testing can often delay that due to just lack of context or lack of tooling. And so we want to really provide within GitLab first-class tools to help everybody in that development chain get that change deployed. And so some of the themes, and these are common themes across the CI/CD group, include multi-platform support, providing a platform for test data that helps users on platforms beyond our traditional support of Linux. Speedy and reliable pipelines. Everything that we focus on in CI/CD must be concerned with the scalability and speed of that continuous integration and testing. And then doing powerful things easily, providing those powerful primitives and tools to build upon to help shift left the testing and to the right to automate improvement of tests through ML and AI in the long-term vision. But really, we want to do powerful things easily in everything that we do and enable customers to really build on top of what we're providing. So the roadmap is going to actually help us get to that vision. Some of the epics that the team is working on, make finding and fixing broken unit tests faster by providing a CI view for the JUnit XML. There's an issue in the upcoming 12.5 release that'll help us get closer to closing that epic out. Making our usability review tool faster and more effective, or making usability reviews rather faster and more effective with our visual review tools. And there's a number of things coming after we've really opened up the tool for more usage and made it easier to get into that tool and use it with the review apps today that we think are going to be powerful for folks. Bringing that load testing category up to a minimal maturity through that load testing MVC. And while there's not a lot in there today, we're really going to try to leverage our internal stakeholders, our QA folks, to help understand what are the problems there that they're having today, what workarounds have they put in place around GitLab, and how can we really get them the tools that they need within the platform. Making code coverage capabilities then more comprehensive, and this is a pretty broad epic, and we'll be looking in the next milestone or two to help scope that down into something that's a little bit more tangible. and beyond that really broad description. I showed off some recent features of interest. I think everybody here has some experience with visual review tools. This released back in 12.0, and in 12.5, we should be releasing some changes that make this experience just a little bit nicer and a little bit easier for people to be able to leverage this in their day-to-day work. And talking about those upcoming milestones, I've chunked this into kind of some themes of usability and accessibility, load testing and system testing, and code quality and unit testing. Those are the categories that I'm mostly focused on for our next 6 releases as a team. I'm going to update this deck, and the link that's provided in the agenda will get that update so that all of these actually link to issues or epics that better describe beyond this description what we're going to be working on and the milestones that they'll be coming in. But removing that need for a token to use the visual review tool, we hear that that is a big friction piece and is preventing people from being able to use the tool readily. And then continuing on that usability theme, adding the ability to take screenshots in the visual review tool to make that feedback richer, and then full screen annotations in the visual review tool. Again, just making that feedback back into the MR richer so that people aren't being forced to take screenshots and drop those into a comment. They can do everything within the GitLab tool. And then the MVC for the accessibility testing, we think that we've identified through proof of concept a way to move that into a minimal state and start to really gather feedback, not just from the internal stakeholders, but from the broader community and customer base about how a report around the accessibility of your web app or your website is going to help you build a more accessible site and web app. Excuse me. Moving into system testing, the Selenium CI view is really the first foray into that. That category is going to stay at planned for now as we launch that and then start to gather the feedback based on that and further explore what system testing really means to the broader community. Integrated load testing MVC, again, moving that category into minimal from our planned state and leveraging the great work that the QA team has already done and really building out what they've started to do outside of the tool, into the tool, and help them solve those problems in a more seamless way. And then code quality and unit testing, the artifact-based view for JUnit XML that we've already talked about, views of code quality outside of MRs. This is really so you can get a broader view of what is the code quality of your project or compare to a different branch outside of just an MR view. Supporting .NET code coverage results directly, and then graphing code coverage and other metrics longer term over time. The first one we're going to focus on, though, is code coverage, just really as an MVC to see how people are using that data and how they can leverage it with the context of time, not just what is the code coverage for this MR. So hopefully that provides some insight into some of the things that are coming up out of the team. If you are flipping through the deck, you'll see that there's a deeper dive into each of the categories, which is just another view of all of these things in the category view. So I'm going to skip over that today, and this deck will get richer as we get more experience within the testing categories and get more community feedback and internal stakeholder feedback on these things. So if I can find my share, I can unshare. Maybe. There we go. So questions, comments, tomatoes to be thrown?
Yeah, I only have one main use case that we probably didn't capture before. Is that we tend to split up the test in parallel a lot, and you can even see this in the deployer pipeline where we collaborate directly with the delivery team, and we just spin up like I think it's like close to 15 jobs now, and it gets the result like it unblocks the last step, which is QA passes. It'd be great if we don't have to. I think our team has a hack where we just download the reports from each job and then generate our own report. I would love it if we can just use the JUnit HTML and just use GitLab to display the results and not rely on any other tooling because that's stuff that's outside GitLab when they were making to the product. So yeah, like I think thinking of how we can merge that results on dynamically would be great. And the rest looks good to me. I think a lot of testing, I'm really excited for that because we're using it to verify our reference architecture. So K6 is the main tooling that we use.
Yeah, and I updated the issue earlier this month to reflect that K6 is the tool, not artillery, since that changed since that an issue was originally written. So we'll be looking forward to deep diving with you guys on that one.
Can I just ask some clarifying on the JUnit thing you mentioned, Mech? So like you're talking about like when we do like an auto parallelize on a unit test type job, and it auto parallelizes say 50 jobs, 15 jobs, whatever it is. You're talking about aggregating the output into one.
All those 50 jobs into one. I'm talking about just the reporting aspect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because right now what you have to do is you have to write your own job to aggregate and report it, right?
Right. I think what we do right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Seb, is like we actually merge it at the test result JSON level, and then like we pipe it to a reporter generator that reads that JSON blob and just look that this is all your tests. I think
it's not even that good. It's not even that good. We're actually
go ahead.
Yeah, we're using the RSpec standard HTML format, so it generates an HTML page for every single job that gets run, and then we're going back through and slicing and dicing the results out of that into one HTML report. So it's really a workaround, and we're really looking forward to some of the stuff coming up.
Yeah, I think ideally we should just have like a job that's just focused on the reports, because to me merging the results and just using a generic job to display that result seems like a workaround. It's more like, hey, this is your box that is just going to contain all the tests report from whatever you select, and that's like an end-to-one mapping. So I'm pretty sure we can do it in this iteration. That's food for your roadmap, James, how you want to structure it going forward.
Yeah. So I think I understand why you are slicing and dicing and putting that all in, but could you in your own words just say what the benefit is to you for getting that outcome of a single report of all of those JUnit tests versus you still get all the results, but they're in 25 different tests or 25 reports?
It's essentially because we are now in an on-call rotation with the infrastructure team. Like every test runs on staging that unblocks the deploy, we jump in and debug the failures right away. So it's a lot easier for us to have a single pane of glass view on what tests failed, rather than clicking through like 50 jobs and just like debugging one by one. I think it will lessen the amount of time for us to debug the failures.
Yeah, and we can have multiple failures just within a single run that happens every couple hours. So you really get lost digging through the multiple levels that we have there in artifacts, trying to just find what we're referencing and then reading the logs. So we were trying to get that into as Mech says, a simpler visual format where everything is condensed into one item. So what we have right now is we're using the default RSpec HTML reporter, and condensing all those reports into one report. It's not the prettiest thing to look at, but it does put all the logs there together. And then we actually have links to the source for the HTML that we're getting the screenshot, plus actual screenshots as well. So that does aggregate things for us, and that can make it simpler. We're still trying to improve that because it's still not it's really not the best format to look at. It's a little painful for the eyes, the default RSpec HTML output, but it was a step in the direction that we need to go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I feel like, we have that keyword where you can just parallelize the jobs. Like, it feels like we've done the fan out piece with that really simply, and we're missing this, like, it should do the merging for you. If you're taking advantage of this super slick feature to like parallelize, you shouldn't have to go and clean up after it.
Right. There's a fan out, and there's also a fan in. So
yeah, but we don't provide the fan in for you, right?
Yep.
That's what I mean.
Okay, cool. That's really helpful context. Thank you. All right, well, I gave you all a lot to chew on in that deck in not very much time. So as you have questions, ping them to me in Slack or the testing group Slack channel, G_testing, and I'll address them there, and then loop them back into the doc so that they're answered there async as well.
Yeah, I also brought this up in our team meeting yesterday. I pointed everybody to the roadmap and asked the team to give a look through it. I noticed a couple are actually in there or have been in there recently. So we should start getting some more general feedback from the team as they're all touching different parts of GitLab.
Love it.
James, just an idea for some other like stakeholders that might be interested.
Yeah.
Like Mac and Zeph and that team mostly focuses on like the main GitLab project and application. I don't mean to like generalize too much, but like it might be interesting to hear input from people like say on the Giddily team, which is like a different code base, some different needs. It's probably going to be mostly, I'm guessing mostly like unit test focused and probably with some like performance testing at some point. But I'd be curious, like I don't know. Different voice, different opinion outside of some of the stuff that the actual quality team is really dealing with.
I think
there might be a couple of.
I think that's a great call out. Sorry, Elliot. Finish first. Sorry.
I was gonna say like there might be a couple other teams like maybe Geo would fall into that. Runner probably does too, but I can probably represent that hopefully.
Yes. So the way I think it's starting to evolve right now is the teams that have satellite projects like Giddily, Runner is a great example because they also have their own test pipelines, right? And we have SDETs that are counterparts to those teams as well. So I would probably for the next time invite them to this meeting as well because they probably know about the ground truth and like what are the hardships. I know for sure that for Giddily, we want to test performance, and there's no better way to do it rather than actually test it in the reference architecture. And that's what Grant is doing. That's like the early feedback from us in that area is the K6. So like MVC is just switch to K6 so we can just use out of the box from GitLab to do our load testing on the reference architecture. But yeah, I agree. I think that's a great call out. We should definitely invite them for feedback.
Great. I'll expand to those folks and point them at the recording from today.
Cool.
All right. Any other comments on the deck from today, or can we move on? All right, seeing none. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again real quick. I hit all the right buttons. There we go. I'm gonna make that bigger. Am I in the right one? Yep. Okay, cool. There's an MR pending that adjusts some of these maturity levels. The biggest call out. Oh no, it looks like the MR already got merged. The one thing that's coming in is I need to set a date for system testing. I just left that as planned, and I'll get that MR submitted today. But I've made some changes to the plans for maturity based on my first 6 weeks here, what I've learned in going through the backlog and the discussions that I've had so far within issues and with some limited exposure to customers and internal stakeholders. But the biggest change is probably pushing back the maturity on usability testing from moving to viable into Q1 from Q4, where it was originally slated when I started. And pulling the accessibility testing forward quite a bit. I think there's a win to be had in that MVC, and there's appetite within the customer base with the recent court actions in the US around accessibility of websites, the Domino's case specifically, that providing some minimal functionality to customers just with a report, similar to what we do with code quality and some of the security capabilities that we have, is going to be potentially a good win for us and really help us set that direction going forward on what the rest of the functionality and opportunities within this category are. And so that's the reason behind pulling that forward with a really already well-defined MVC and the opportunity that's in the market today. I felt good about pulling that forward, and so the team is going to be picking that up pretty soon. Juan and I are working on some problem and solution validation, just making sure that we're really going in the right direction and have a good solution scoped out. But that'll be getting ready for grooming here in the next milestone or so. So that's the big change that I wanted to call out. Otherwise, not massive changes here within the maturity. It feels slow ramping up in the next couple quarters, but I think that as the team comes together and really gels, and as we get this problem and solution validation cycle really figured out, and how we're going to talk to customers and validate these problems, that pace will pick up. And we'll get more impactful issues into the backlog and really pulling through and moving through the team. But wanted to get a sense from this this group at a first blush of how this feels. Is it too slow? Is it too aggressive? Are we trying to move the wrong categories too soon or too late? So I'd love to hear a little bit of feedback. I know that's a lot to consume and chew on in 15 seconds, but always, like I said, hit me up later with more thoughts. And this is, as always, a work in progress.
Where does the report mechanism falls in? Because it should be under continuous integration. So where we're capturing the reporting mechanism.
Reporting for what data? I guess I'd say.
Test reports.
Metrics reports.
No, test
No.
reports.
Yeah, what we just talked about, like getting the XML artifacts.
Oh,
The VM unit testing.
I think that falls into, I would say it falls into unit testing. To me, that is where that makes the most sense because those are unit test reports from the JUnit XML.
Not really, because you can actually use JUnit reports on any test runner. So you can have end-to-end tests using the JUnit reporting mechanism.
So avoiding the holy war of like what's an integration test. So yeah, the functionality is basically just lumped under the JUnit category because it's about parsing JUnit output. So all the JUnit issues are lumped under the category of unit testing within the app. Yes, you can do anything and then turn it into JUnit output and then have it like show up like that. But I think that's also probably, I was kind of chuckling why the integration testing one is completely blank because I don't think anyone can agree on what should live there. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm just gonna leave that.
That's fine. James, you are the DRI, so whatever basket it is, as long as you tell us it's there, it's there. So I'm not gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds fine. And the other comment I have is for usability, we're not doing any automation yet. But have you considered enlisting some UX people as stakeholders?
Yeah, we're working on getting some interviews put together. I'm having a brain fart now and can't remember. I believe that we're doing some problem validation on that, and we're gathering folks in the current milestone to interview around the accessibility testing, and then we'll move into solution, and we'll definitely pull in our own internal UX folks when we start talking about that as well, because I know UX has a vested interest in ensuring that our own website and web app are accessible.
Cool. I have a one-on-one with Christy later for Friday. If you want me to socialize this with her, I'm more than happy to. But yeah, I'm happy to hear that it's ongoing.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm sure Juan has floated it through that team as well. But you know, the more data they have, the better.
Mac, I misunderstood your comment about automation. Were you talking about automation and usability or accessibility?
Automation in both, because I think the use case from the UX team was just have test automation for accessibility and usability off the bat, so we don't rely on manual validation or going through the application.
Okay. The feature that we have for usability testing right now, there's nothing that you can really automate about it. I mean, we can automate testing the feature itself, but it's something that depends upon human feedback. That's the kind of the design of the tool.
I see. Yeah, and this is why we need the UX folks to chime in, because obviously I do not have the expertise to comment on that.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thought. I haven't really looked at existing tools out there right now. That I'm sure there are some things though. Some things do come to mind. I'll go review that.
I'm pretty sure there is. Like since I think 6 months ago, there was an issue from the UX team. Like, hey, can we just have some libraries that scans the app? I'm like, hey, this color doesn't really work well, and that's like the base for the human.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where it's coming from. It's not like let's replace it. No, I think accessibility and usability will still need a very high human touch. But what can we do as early warning signs? Like, hey, this Pantone color with this doesn't really look great. Colorblind doesn't really work in this case. So that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, that's where it can fall over into the accessibility area, which I think some of those other tools like the Pally and things like that help out with too.
Cool. I have no more questions. This has been great. Happy to have this be ongoing.
Awesome. So yeah, Mech, it looked like you, oh yeah, we're doubling up on things, but awesome. And so my last question for the group, and specifically for Zeph and Mech, is the metrics reports, that open metrics functionality. Wanted to get a sense of how you're using it today, with how you're building up on that primitive, if at all.
We probably need some time to chew on it before giving feedback. The short answer is we're probably not doing much with it right now, which is good. And yeah, maybe circle back the next time around on the topic. I'll socialize it with my engineering managers as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I noticed that on your agenda, and I thought, wow, I don't have good feedback for you right now, but that's something we definitely will dig into. That's
okay. And if a follow-up for that is, as you're soliciting that feedback, if we're finding that people aren't using it, we'd love to get some context on why. If there's just not problems to solve with that today, or just no time to try to leverage it, but it is exciting, or any other reason for not using that functionality.
It's probably the latter. It's probably the latter, because we are just laser focused on getting the deploy pipeline, like the daily or hourly staging runs all green. That's taken a lot of toll on us. So it's probably most likely the latter, where it's exciting, but we don't have capacity to leverage that.
Cool. Okay. Well, we can deep dive on that a little bit more in the next session too. All right, so I wanted to make sure the team has an opportunity as well to directly interface, although I'm sure that these folks are going to directly interface with you via Slack or any other method that they want, but ask questions and get everybody's ears listening. If the team has questions on any issues that we're currently working on or grooming for an upcoming milestone. All right. All right, well, I think we answered all the questions in the doc. I didn't see any in chat. And if there's comments that flow into the deck, I'll pull those back over into the doc as well, so we capture them there. But otherwise, I think this is a great first session. Would love feedback offline, online on this and how it went, things that you were expecting but we didn't cover, things that we did cover that you thought were superfluous, or any other folks that might have been missing from this call that we should get looped in the next time.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks, James.
All right. Thanks, folks. I'll get this, once it's processed, uploaded to Unfiltered. Have a good day.